I see we have 3 council members. Mayor, Jason, you're here. Everyone else, welcome. So call to order, roll call. I see everybody's here, so we'll cover that. Any comments on the agenda from the committee? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and approve the agenda. Let me get my participant screen up here so I can see if anybody's here. Looks like we have 3 attendees. Are there anyone like to have a comment? I suppose this is on items not on the agenda. We will allow a brief comment on the agenda items during the course of the committee meeting. All right, hearing none, we'll move forward to the minutes. Council members have any comments on the minutes? I did not either. They look good. So for hearing no comments, we'll go ahead and approve the minutes of February 7th, 2022. And moving right along, Agenda Bill AB 22041 SWOT survey results and analysis. Jason, are you going to walk us through the results tonight?
Yes, I will do that, Chair.
All right.
So you can see in your packet, there's the agenda bill included, which runs through the background of kind of how this started and then includes the attachment of the citizen survey results. So as by way of background, this process really began a little over 2 years ago in October 2019 with a town hall meeting. And following that, this committee, the Community Development Committee, started to get a better handle on, as we term them, future development concepts for Snoqualmie. And that was focused on both the vision within the comprehensive plan and was largely focused on it was focused on the city's UGA areas, the urban growth areas, which are those areas that are within the city's designated urban growth area, but are not yet annexed into the city. But the specific focus, of course, was on the largest, most developable area, which would be Snoqualmie Hills, east and west. After a fair amount of discussion in late 2020 going into early 2021, the CD committee opted to conduct a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. And that analysis was to include a community survey. So the SWOT analysis consisted of 3 components. First, there was a session with the city council in February 2021 that was done at a special council workshop, so it was separate from the council's regular meetings. Later in September, there was what we call the stakeholder SWOT session. We invited 30 business and nonprofit leaders to this session. 27 were able to participate. And then this committee discussed the results of the stakeholder SWOT session on October 18th, 2021. Finally, the city conducted a citizen survey during the month of December 2021. We set a goal of getting at least 400 survey participants, which would enable a confidence level of 95% plus, with a plus minus margin of error of 5%. We ended up with 462 respondents. That was after stripping out a few that were they indicated they didn't live or work in Snoqualmie, things like that. And in this survey, we were asking survey respondents there are 2 main areas of focus. The first was to choose from up to 3 of the top 7 strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, so 3 from each category of strengths, weaknesses, etc. Those top 7 were identified by the city council and the stakeholder group. So this wasn't necessarily a completely open-ended survey of saying, what do you citizens consider the strengths, the weaknesses, etc. It was taking the top 7 as previously identified and saying, do you agree with this one or on like that. And then there were a series of questions which we can liken to the Venn diagram questions that Mayor Larson was fond of speaking of, you can have economic development, you can have a level of service, you can have, low taxes, but you can't, that area right in the middle is nirvana, which is almost impossible to achieve at a city level for various reasons. So if you want, hypothetically, if you want a high level of service and low tax and fees, well, you're going to have to go for some economic development, in that example. So we had several questions that were intended to gauge citizens' interest in, do you want a high level of service or a lower level of service? Do you want higher tax and fees, inflation adjusted, or lower tax and fees? And then would you like more economic development or lower economic development? Finally, we had some demographic questions to help us get an idea of who's responding. So we attached the survey results to the agenda bill, and you could, of course, read them for yourself. Let me turn on my screen share here for a second. We can run through them. So,
say, Jason, Bob
yes.
Starbank is on the phone in attendees.
Oh, excellent.
He's the phone number.
Yeah, let me turn on his allow to talk so we can interject as he sees fit. I can't make him a panelist when he's on the phone, but
I see. Never mind. Thank you.
But he can at least speak when he desires to now. Okay. Anyway, so these are the results for strengths, and so you can see house was broken out. Beautiful natural environment was the one with the most responses by far. And then going on down, the one with the fewest was strong tourist attractions. On weaknesses, there were a fair number all in the same ballpark. Weaknesses: limited retail stores, transportation infrastructure, parking and traffic in downtown. The opportunities, we had a very strong response on proactive infrastructure maintenance. And then the results kind of tailed down from there. And then threats, the Highway 18 interchange, almost every respondent listed the Highway 18 interchange as a major threat. Then we have transportation, the pandemic, workforce housing is right here, workforce labor shortage. So you can see from all these that certainly transportation infrastructure were some pretty common themes across all of these, which would indicate that while Snoqualmie has some pretty good, at least internal transportation infrastructure, there's major concern with our connection to the greater region, namely through the interchange, but also being able to maintain the infrastructure we've got. Going on to as we call them, the Venn diagram questions. So this is the one about growth and economic development. Do you oppose it on being a 1? Do you support it being a 10? Certainly a plurality is over here on support. And if you kind of add all these on the support side up, you get over 50% pretty easily. On the inflation adjusted tax and fee increases, support them or oppose them. There's a strong plurality over here on opposing those tax and fee increases. And then coming down to level of service reductions, this is the strongest response we got by far. People are clearly very fond of the level of service in the city, whether it's for our police officers, firefighters, our parks, and all the other services the city provides. So nobody, people don't want to see that cut in general. And then the demographic questions, which I won't go through in great detail here. It largely matches what we would expect from a survey representing Snoqualmie. So as to the next steps here, the original intent perhaps behind the SWOT analysis, as I said, was to help inform future development concepts and determining whether the vision in the comprehensive plan was appropriate or needed tweaking or not. While there certainly was maybe an initial desire to help this feed into council goal setting, I think more broadly now, it is extremely useful for the council to consider this information in light of the coming comprehensive plan update and considering what the direction of the city is going to be when it comes to growth and development. We got some pretty strong and relatively clear results from this, stronger, maybe more clear than we were expecting. And so the next steps are really up to the city council of how do you want to take the information and what do you want to do with it? And I know the mayor has some additional perspectives on this as well that she could share. And certainly we're available to take council committee questions if you have any.
Mayor, before you start, I think we'll kind of maybe follow the same procedures we do in council, and I'll allow some at committee. The chair has discretion to allow public comment. I will allow some public comment. It'll be limited to 2 minutes maximum. It needs to be directly related to the presentation of what's there in terms of the survey and the SWOT analysis. So we can go ahead. I see there's a couple of hands up here. Let's do that, and then we'll have committee discussion. So we'll start with Ms. Lux. Somebody could unmute Ms. Lux. You can go ahead and speak.
Yeah, so we're looking at the level of happiness with our public safety and service department. I'd like to disagree on record with that, as we now know that Nick Almquist was just moved out of the police department, and the attorney general is currently involved
Ms.
with the
Lux, I'm
police
going to interrupt
department.
you right
The
away.
city, there's
This
not
is
at
a
all.
discussion of our public safety. This is a discussion of the survey. I prefer you to stick to the discussion on the survey, please.
This is my public comment time, Bob Sturbank, and you may butt out as you have problems with following the law. It relates very specifically
clearly
to.
doesn't want to follow the procedures that I outlined. I'd ask that the public please comment on the information in front of the committee at this time. There will be public comment opportunities at the council level. This is clearly not that. That discussion is not relevant to this committee's agenda item. So, Mr. Shield.
Thank you. So Richard Shield, 6701 West Crestview Loop, Southeast. I just wanted to make a small mention that the sequence that the SWOT analysis went through, where it started with the council and the very last ones who had any voice were the citizens. And it seems to me that's the opposite sequence of where it should have gone, because I found as a resident responding to the survey, I could only respond to prioritizing things that the council had already set as choices. And so to the extent that any resident, myself included, had any thoughts of any other types of items that were not on that predefined list, we did not have any opportunity to say, have a free text box that you could type in something that the survey running company could look at and say, wow, we got a whole bunch of people who spoke up about something that the council didn't put on the list. So I don't know if that would have strongly changed things, but I just wanted to mention that. But I felt there were some things I would have put on it that I didn't have the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Shield. All right, seeing no other hands up, we'll go ahead and move on. I just want to point out one real quick item is that the items that were presented in the survey were items that were developed from a community meeting in 2019. None of those were items that the council created on their own. Mayor Ross, you had your hand up earlier.
I did. So exactly that. The town hall meeting fed into actually to us doing the SWOT survey. And, you know, I think it was really good timing that we completed the SWOT survey at the end of the year, so that here's a lot of good information. We have 4 new council members, and this is something that we can now take and use and figure out, you know, based on that, we talked about a strategic plan and goals. How do we use this information? And so one thing is we just approved the King County planning policies last week, and there we had job target and housing target. And so here, you know, their growth and development are very strong on the chart. And so we can actually use that information and figure out how are we going to achieve those King County planning policies to start with.
Good point. So, so committee members, Councilmember Mayhew, Councilmember Johnson. I think there's a couple of interesting things that I saw, which was there were clear acknowledgments of strengths and acknowledgments of weaknesses. I don't think it was, you know, it was easy to follow what the those that responded to the survey felt that where those things fell. It's interesting how I actually go to the demographics as the thing that I found the most interesting was the age of the survey respondents, because that's different than we've had in the past on previous surveys with the city. Maybe we are getting older in our demographics of folks living in Snoqualmie now, which is nice to see, because we've always had a very young population, and that population now is showing the growth of the cities. But either Councilmember Johnson or Councilmember Mayhew, do you have any comments? I can't tell if you're trying to raise your hand or turn your mic off, or.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
I have no comments.
Same with me. Well, I think then I mean, ultimately the as was stated by Jason, that the purpose of this was to add supplemental information to the SWOT analysis and the previous community meeting that developed these future. I like the way it was said in the agenda bill, which was great, because it was what we I remember being there. It was taking stock of Snoqualmie today and tomorrow, and there were quite a few items that were very clear. It is interesting now, following a pandemic, how we are going to potentially move forward with these or address these, because it's nice to see from the survey that some of those priorities, like a level of service, are still on everyone's minds. So the next steps for this is to take this information and as council I see many council members here today, which is great. Also have council have it available for the retreat and for future discussions on growth and development. So we have good input from the city residents and move forward with that. Are there any other things, Jason, that we need to address on the SWOT before we go ahead and say what's I guess, but technically we're moving it to council level at this point.
Yeah, and that's really the decision for the committee is, if you desired further discussion of the SWOT here in the committee, or if we should move it forward to the full council for a report out, and then you can take it. We can take it, determine the next steps after that.
My take on it is it's probably this any level of detailed discussion is probably best taken at the council level. As a committee, I think we were the vehicle for creating this information and bringing this information forward. I think that's been a good process, and while it has taken quite a long time, I think there's some good information here to pass forward. Councilmember Johnson or Mayhew, any other thoughts?
Just mention that in the broad strokes, I think this aligns more or less with what I think I would have expected. So I don't think there's anything particularly surprising in these numbers.
Councilor Mayhew has his hand up, but it looks like he's dropped into participants, but
Yeah.
also in the meeting. I'm not sure if that's.
I was going to ask, just as a housekeeper, if I could at least allow the attendee, Councilman Mayhew, to talk to, so we can make sure it's really him first.
That's good.
That's okay.
Sorry, that's me coming on the computer now. Yeah.
Okay, so I can get both of you in. If
No,
that helps.
I'll drop the phone call and just go to the video.
Okay. So let's see this one. Okay, hopefully he'll be able to rejoin as a panelist in a second here.
I think we can take this time too, as this is well, Jim's getting back on there. Thank you. This is a notice committee of the whole meeting, and I see we have a couple other council members on. I don't want to turn this into a council discussion. Obviously, I think you guys understand that. But if there are any initial comments or things regarding the data that's been provided as opposed to direction, I'd welcome those comments. Actually, all right, Councilmember Benson.
I just think it's really cool that we get this, that we got such a great response from the community on this. The opportunities to hear from the community, I think the more we can get those, the better. I thought was it Mr. Shield, who commented that that it'd be great if there were open-ended responses, would be great. But I think also, pardon me, Mr. Rogers addressed the fact that the responses were multiple choice and they were based on some things that they worked out in the past to poll people on. But that was really great information. So I'm glad that you guys are bringing it to the whole council.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, something actually did come to mind. So I was on the stakeholder meeting, and my understanding is that the intent originally had been that we would be discussing our concepts for a little bit further in the future than a little bit of the direction that we had received there. So we were looking at, or we were instructed to consider the next year, like calendar year from when that happened. And I think that the actual intent was for us to have a deeper look into the future. So just keep that in mind with the stakeholder meeting.
Good observations, yes. All right, Councilmember Mayhew, one more time, anything you got to add?
Not at all. I was just going to say, for a minute, I was unsure if we were asking the council for any action, but I think Mr. Rogers clarified it's just a report out just as we've received. So that's fantastic.
Yep. All right, so any objection to moving this forward to council for discussion at that level? Hearing none, that's what we'll do. All right. Thank you. Before Mayor Ross was Mayor Ross was Councilmember Ross, and Councilmember Ross was a big part of getting this through. So thank you, Mayor, for pushing the process, and that we're not letting it fall down.
You're welcome. I think it'd be good information to use. So.
This
So
is like
next item-
Schoolhouse Rock, you know, a bill becomes a law, then that goes up the steps.
That is a great one. So next item, I had asked to have just a brief discussion of the hotel development agreement. All the council members should have received that correspondence earlier today. I think the emails were appreciated, and regarding the correspondence with the hotel being Hotel America. I'll be more specific because we do have two now. Hotels. I don't want to get it confused with one or the other, but the Hotel America, and then the follow up regarding the reports. I personally haven't had a chance to read the reports. Haven't been at work all day, but I did see that they came through. Bob, is there any update on timing for the deposits that are due as well?
I can respond if Bob has additional notes. He can fill that in. We got an email from the Hotel America's council on this earlier today that there is $60,000 has been deposited into the account, and the remainder, which at this point totals $90,000, should be deposited within the next few days, hopefully. The current status is that the bank is reviewing what's called the bank security agreement. And so once the bank's review of that is complete, then we should have everything done. So while we continue to wait for an update on that one, we are actively engaged with the Hotel America folks, both their council and their ownership, to resolve that. So we will definitely let the council know when that has been resolved. I would say the hotel folks are well aware of the city's position at this point and the issues with the timing. So we are staying very actively on top of them on this.
I think that's you, Bob, on the phone there. I figured you can't raise your hand, so I'm gonna give you a chance. Looks like you're unmuted.
It is me on the phone, and Jason has just said everything that I would. I don't have anything to add on that, other than that he said the next few days. I believe that the specific date they indicated the additional funds would be deposited by was anticipated to be March 10th, which is this Thursday.
And just so it's clear, Bob, if you can fill in the blanks here, just this is not a council oversight per se. It's the administration's responsibility. The city attorney, city administrator, the mayor, and community development department to oversee this. I had asked to just get an update on the situation where we were, because we knew we were coming up on some deadlines.
Yeah, that is correct. With the clarification that if the administration were to recommend that the city initiate legal action to enforce the requirements of the agreement, of course, the mayor would be asking for council confirmation of that as provided by statute. But otherwise, yeah, you are correct. It is the administration responsibility to implement the agreement that the council previously approved. And that, as Jason said, that's what we are working on doing in bird dogging the folks, for lack of a better word, at the hotel, at the Snoqualmie Inn.
Councilmember Mayhew.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, I want to thank the mayor and Mr. Sauerwein and those involved in the city, Mr. Sturbank, so on, for following through on this. I know there are a number of us on the council that have been raising this for a number of months now, and I know, you know, we just had a changeover in administration. We've had a changeover in personnel. So, you know, I really appreciate mayor and staff that you all got on this. You know, as one of your first priorities. I think, you know, when a member of the community comes to a council meeting, sort of brings this up, it just tells you we're not the only ones watching. And so it's frustrating. I'm a little frustrated with the folks at that hotel who didn't get this stuff done as they originally committed to, but that's water under the bridge now, I suppose. The key now is, you know, let's live up to that agreement now. It sounds like that's all falling into place. And thank you, Mayor. Thanks, administration, for making that happen and keeping us posted on that. And let's hope that this moves forward as we all had hoped back when we modified the agreement to set up this arrangement. So if we move forward and everything falls into place, I know I'll be pleased. I think most of the community will too.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, the only concern that I have is just making sure that the administration has all of the tools that they would need to be granted, either by ordinance or otherwise, to make sure that this process can happen smoothly going forward and in future years. So if there's anything that they need from council, then, you know, of course, they would come to us and just make sure that you do. That's all. Thank you.
Mayor Ross.
I would say, I mean, I've been following it since I was CD chair, and I know there's been numerous changeovers in management there. And so when you look at the reports, I mean, they go back to, I don't remember which quarter in 2020, so you should have received at least 4 reports, and I think there's one more that was coming. So this is like they've been doing what they should be doing. They just haven't shared that information with us. And that $60,000 was deposited, I don't know when, but now they're waiting for 90,000 more. So the whole thing has been in process. Of course, we will continue to monitor it and working with them. And I think we do have the tools that we need per the ordinance as to what we can do moving forward if, you know, if things don't happen where they're supposed to happen. So
Thanks, Mayor. Councilmember Mayhew.
Yeah, sorry, and Mayor, thanks for that further update. To know that some of that was happening timely. I hadn't had a chance to catch up with that email yet either. So that's really good news that it was just slow in getting to us. Well, that's part of the deal, but look, if we get it, anyway, that's great news. Thank you. I just wanted to say, I meant to say and sort of didn't manage to spit it out, that I do, personally, I appreciate Mr. Shield bringing that up at our last council meeting, and hopefully he's satisfied to see that actually a lot was already going on, and hopefully he's satisfied with the results, and encourage him to let mayor or any of us know if he has further concerns, because hopefully everyone can see that folks are focused on this. And so I did not know if you, Chair, had wanted to allow him a chance to comment. I see he's in the audience, but I know she didn't take comment on this item. I didn't know if you were planning to or not, but just take note that he's there and thank him for bringing it up. So that's all I wanted to say further.
You did exactly what I was going to do. Is Mr. Shield, appreciate keeping an eye on these things. We all were doing the same, and you had the opportunity to bring it forward. And I think that's what the purpose of that is to have those sort of public comment periods when they're appropriate. As this item is not an agenda bill, I do not plan to take public comment. It is just a discussion item amongst the committee. It's not something that we will take action on or do have take any. That's basically that. We won't be taking any action on it, so there's no reason to take any comment. But again, the public is a big part of this, and if anyone does have comments to address, please address those to those responsible for administrating this agreement with the hotel, and that'd be the appropriate thing. But of course, if you want to reach out to any council member, we'd always welcome the input too. So, Councilmember Johnson.
Were we planning to forward this as a discussion item like the last one to council, or is this going to be kind of the end of the line for this one?
For right now, I plan this just to be the end of the discussion. The administration and the mayor the city administrator and the mayor are on top of it. The CD department is on top of it. If there is a need for council to have further involvement, I'm sure it'll come to us in that sense. So
I agree.
All right. Any other final items on this one? Seeing none, that takes us to the end of our agenda. We're going to have one of the fastest community development committee meetings in history. I don't know. No, Councilmember Johnson.
Only if the chair will allow me to just mention that I happen to just notice on the minutes that my email is incorrect. I don't know if that's something at this point we can retroactively fix, or if they are what they are, but.
No, I think, is it not JM Johnson? Is it JJ Johnson, or is it J?
Yeah, it's Jay Johnson. That's my planning commission email.
Oh, it used to be JM Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
That's
okay,
right.
so they've changed it.
Yeah.
Those stinkers.
I didn't notice it. That's why I thought that was.
I
still-
never noticed either. So yeah.
We'll
Okay,
call it a typo and just fix it.
yeah, I'll
Perfect.
fix it.
Yeah.
I think we should call him JJ from now on. That sounded really good.
Well, how come you were JM Johnson on the planning commission and now you get to be J Johnson?
Thank you.
Well, I think that's a normal course of business typo thing. I don't think we need to worry about the minutes after that.
Great, thank you.
All right. Seeing no other comments, there's motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. I don't think we need to vote. I think that's a unanimous agreement. We'll be adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you at the next committee meeting.
Bye,
Thank
JJ.
Thanks. Have a good night.
See you, Jim.